Happy holidays. Well, as we're crawling near the finish line, near the big holiday pre-New Year week of celebration after celebration after celebration with eating and family and all the stimulus of the season, it's easy to let go of the focus on our weight and our health and just say, refocus at the new year. So this week on the Thin Thinking podcast, we invite back Marilyn Thayer, who is keeping off over 100 pounds weight release and has been maintaining now for a year. Now, during her maintenance, Marilyn went through a time where her life got incredibly demanding, and she walks us through how she got herself back refocusing on the skill set of weight mastery. This is an important note for those of you who really want to master maintenance, how to bring yourself back from a difficult time and refocus. We discuss the difference between that all or nothing thinking and all or something thinking that is really at the heart of long-term success. So I think this will be really great for you, not just for maintenance, but for the holidays. So join Marilyn and I and get some inspiration to stay focused during the holidays so that you don't have to start over in the new year. Grab your mistletoe and join the party. Come on in. Did you know that our struggle with weight doesn't start with the food on your plate or get fixed in the gym? 80% of our weight struggle is mental. That's right. The key to unlocking long-term weight release and management begins in your mind. Hi there, I'm Rita Black. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, weight loss expert, best-selling author, and the creator of the Shift Weight Mastery process. And not only have I helped thousands of people over the past 20 years achieve long-term weight mastery, I am also a former weight struggler, carb addict, and binge eater. And after 2 decades of failed diets and fad weight loss programs, I lost 40 pounds with the help of hypnosis. Not only did I release all that weight, I have kept it off for 25 years. Enter the Thin Thinking podcast, where you too will learn how to remove the mental roadblocks that keep you struggling. I'll give you the thin thinking tools, skills, and insights to help you develop the mindset you need, not only to achieve your ideal weight, but to stay there long term and live your best life. Hello, friends. Sound all good? Over the world. Let's get New started. friends and old, welcome. And if this is your first time with us, please get cozy. And veteran thin thinkers, welcome back. Take a seat. You know the one you usually sit in. I want to first of all thank you for being here and sticking with us during the holiday season where everybody's dropping off any sort of healthiness off the radar. And I want to thank you for being part of the Thin Thinking community all year long. We don't take your listenership and your ears and your listening lightly. We're so happy you are here sharing with us ideas and then thinking. So welcome. So this week, I have yet another maintenance mindset story for you. We've been listening to various long-term maintainers share about their maintenance this autumn, and I have so many more maintenance stories to share with you. I thought it was just going to be an autumn thing, but then I just started asking more and more of my students who have been maintaining for a long time, and they keep saying yes. So we're going to rock these maintenance stories into the new year, which I'm really excited about. But and the reason why is I think learning about the mindset of maintaining, even if you have weight yet to release, it's so helpful because it's something that isn't focused on a lot. I think we have this idea that you lose weight and it's all fabulous and that is it. But maintenance is its own journey. And I think when you understand that maintenance is also a mindset and a skill set kind of its own. I mean, it certainly is entrenched or, is the foundation is the same skill set, help you release the weight, help you maintain the weight. But there's a nuance to maintenance. And I think there's a lot of emotions and internal mindsets to navigate, especially in the beginning. So I just want you to be prepared for when you arrive. We have a lot of, like I said, long-term maintainers in our community, and something we are very proud of because, we aren't just about weight release. We're about long-term, permanent weight mastery, which means long-term. It means like keeping it off, not just taking it off, keeping it off. So breaking that start over and breaking through by really not focusing on being good on a diet, but by learning deeply the skill set and the mindset of weight mastery. So if you're still struggling, especially this holiday, please take advantage of my free online masterclass. You can listen to it anytime. You can watch it anytime. The link is in the show notes. I know it's a busy season, but it's really great to listen to when you're Christmas shopping or holiday baking. Just don't listen to it. Well, you could listen to it even in the car. That's true, except for the hypnosis part. We do have a hypnosis session in there, and pull over to the side of the road. Or you can listen to it like a podcast on a morning walk or something like that. It's easy to listen to, and it really focuses on working with your subconscious to eliminate the resistance and sabotage that keeps you struggling, so you can not only release the weight but keep it off in the long term. So check the link out. They're in the show notes. And I think you're going to get a lot from Marilyn's story regarding her weight maintenance, because she's kept it off for now a year, but she kept it off for 8 months and then struggled because life got challenging. And how many of us gained weight back because life became a struggle and we let go? So Marilyn, she really walks us through how she did loosen her grip, but then she brought herself back and is still continuing her weight mastery journey. She allowed the setback to be a great teacher of who she needed to be to keep the weight off during the good and the bad. So I hope you glean a lot from this valuable conversation that was recorded this summer when we discussed how humid and hot it was. So that's sort of a crack up now that we're here in the middle of the winter. Welcome back, Marilyn. I always love having you on the Thin Thinking podcast. We were just talking about Marilyn's summer. How are you? It's really good to see you.
Thanks, Rita. It's always great to be here and share ideas. So.
Well, we're talking about maintenance today, and how long have you been in the maintenance zone? We'll just call it the maintenance zone after releasing, the majority of your weight.
Yeah, so I'll say that since shifting, I've been in the maintenance zone, let's say for about a year, just a little over a year now. I reached my goal. But I think I had practice with maintaining in a kind of a different way before that. And I'll just give you a bit of a recap.
Yeah, please.
About 12 years ago, I had gastric bypass surgery. I was 250 pounds. And I dropped, gained back a little, which is normal. And I kind of stabilized after that surgery. About 4 years later, I stabilized, let's say, to about 170 pounds, 160 pounds, which I was really pleased with. I think that just seemed like a good fit for me. I'm 5'4". It wasn't skinny by any means, but I felt healthy and it felt fine. Then along came COVID and started inching back up. And it wasn't as much about inching back up the scale as it was about, I just knew that could be like, when does the inching back up stop? Found shift and lost more than, or released more pounds than I was even thinking about, because I got really into a routine and a very deliberate focus. My prior maintenance was less intentional, and this time I was more intentional about things, about the release, and then about the maintenance as well. So I've been maintaining. I'm now right around 140 or so.
That's fantastic. Good for you. How how did that feel this time? And maybe you can speak to your other time as well, because we're talking about maintenance in general, like as you are getting to that, place you would call your ideal weight, your goal weight. Did you have any fear or did you like was the thinking as you were up, kind of getting to that place or as you settled into maintenance, like was there doubt or fear or did you feel pretty confident about maintaining your weight once you got there?
I felt very confident about maintaining my weight, and I'm going to have to say, I think I was probably overconfident. Because, when I was releasing, I mean, there were times, days when I made choices that weren't ideal, but I'd come back from that. I'm going to say without a problem. When I got into maintaining, and it was the maintenance, I'm going to say, came fairly naturally, probably this time for about the first 8 months or so. And then I started to have some big stressors in my life. My husband had surgery. We were buying a property, and I just happened to have a flurry of work travel, international travel that I had to do, and so it knocked me off my schedule. It knocked me off my routines. My mind was, I was worried. I was anxious about things. There always seemed to be something to do, and that kind of knocked me out for a period longer than I had done in the release phase. And yeah, it took some convincing to get myself sort of back on track. But
Mhm.
yeah.
But so for you, maintenance, you were maintaining pretty easily. The mindset was there, the skills were building, and then you got kind of pulled into this hole. And you and I were talking about this before we hit record, taking care of your husband after a surgery, which is huge, and I was sharing my own experience of not being able to exercise as much, and you do get out of your own schedule. But what was there, like, as you talk about, like, coming back from that, like you were saying, it wasn't like you gave up or you were really, speed dialing up the scale, but that it just took some time to re-engage with your inner coach and focus on the skills. Like it wasn't about, well, maybe you can tell me is like that journey back to feeling like you've got a strategy that you're working on your maintenance, you're getting back to your, goal weight. Um, how has that been and how do you think that's adding to your mastery and your maintenance journey, that experience?
Mhm. So I think I want to be better prepared for crises, and have a
Mhm.
better plan in place and better strategies when that type of thing comes up. Because when I was doing the releasing with Shift, I mean, I purposely moved everything so that that was my main focus, and that was a little artificial in terms of life. But I didn't have any. I had no travel. I just kind of made that my, like, it was a real full-time job at that point. And I think so so I didn't have the practice of well, certainly, hopefully the surgery doesn't come along, all that often and those sorts of things, but I just didn't have that practice, and I hadn't really figured out what I was going to do um, in an event where there were, and I'm going to say there were like three things colliding sort of at the same time there. So I think what that has done for me going forward is to really try to recognize that a little bit sooner, um, and engage a little bit sooner. I still do think I need that I have to be ready for it, because if I'm not there and ready to re-engage, I think I can just give myself permission to give myself just a little bit of leeway and be kind to myself during that leeway, because sometimes I'm just not ready to be there for that focus. So But I think I would like to have some strategies so that I maybe don't get as far off track. And I think some of those strategies are, I think, gratefulness and appreciation, like really, and realizing, because every day, I could still feel how things were working well for me. Clothes fit well. It was easy to get around. I could notice all the things that I had gained, and I tried to be very cognizant of those things that I'd gained through the release of weight, right? Um, and I think the other thing was, let's see, yeah, noticing the newness, noticing and being aware of the things, the habits that really were still there. So I was
Mm.
noticing this recently, and one of the things was, I walk a lot to do errands, and part of that was because I now live in a city. I never used to live in a city, but when I started walking at the beginning of the shift process, I mean, I could barely, like, kilometer and a half, so a mile at max, and probably usually a little less than that. But just yesterday, and even though I feel like I'm still in the phase of coming back to maintenance. Yesterday I was out for 5 kilometers, which would be about 3 miles, and that was a whole going and dropping off a return and then picking up some groceries and hot weather, and some fairly humid weather, and that was just like, I didn't think about whether I would take the vehicle or walk. I just walked, and I think that was part of what the shift process gave me, and it's become part of who I am, what I naturally do. Another thing that I can see is still there is things like habits like doing the stairs all the time. I just don't think about whether I do the stairs or not. I live in an apartment building. I don't do the elevator, unless I'm carrying something like really heavy. I will even do the recycling. That's my stairs, so um yeah, so I was just very conscious of the habits that I had put in place that just weren't questions, and then there were some other habits that had slipped away, and then I'm looking at how I'm going to approach those for reinstating the same results. I mean, results in terms of the habits, whether it's exactly the same strategy to get that habit this time, or whether it's something different. Sometimes I feel I'm more successful if, instead of doing the exact same kind of game or strategy, let's say to drink water, if I kind of change it up and go, well, let's see if I can find something else that will attract my attention and really kind of get me writing it down or wanting to fill in the boxes or tick it off my list or something like that.
I love it. So I think what I'm hearing from you is something that I think happens naturally and or let me rephrase that. So you got into a tough time where, kind of the rug was pulled out from underneath your feet as far as your structure and your but what happened during that time was you leaned in on what I call like three pillars of your own, like the top three things that are like your go-tos, like guardrails or self-care. Maybe they weren't all weight management, but they were like staying connected to yourself,
Yeah,
through gratitude and appreciation.
right,
Um, moving your body, even though you might not be like doing formal exercise, you kept active,
right.
and and also, forgiving yourself and kind of going, like, this is an extraordinary time, this isn't always going to be like this. And in this all, did you, it sounded like, and I don't want to say yes or no to this, it sounded like you had the confidence that you had the skills to get back to where you wanted to be. You knew, like, okay, I'm letting it go a little bit, like, here, I'm not feeling 100% on
Oh
my game
yeah,
right now, but I know that when we get to the other side of this, I'll be able to get myself back in gear and get refocused.
totally. I knew that I had the skills, and that when I was ready to approach that gap, I would start in doing that. And when I say the gap, I'm thinking of um so the, the gap between the knowledge, knowing what I can do, and the implementation, right?
Yeah.
Like closing that gap back up again. Because for a long time, I was the knowledge of what to do and how to do it was synonymous with my implementation.
Right.
But then, I still had the knowledge, but it was just not being wasn't on the implementation. But I'll tell you something else, Rita, that I read. It was actually I think it was came from somebody in the Spring Shift 2024. One of the participants on the Facebook group there made a comment. No, it's not not all or nothing, but all or something. And I think that was really cool. I really loved that because so many times I think weight loss efforts we feel that all or nothing. If I'm not on it, I've blown it, and let's just go do whatever I want. But I think it's really important. I think that's what shifting is all or something. And some days you can give it your all, and your knowledge and what you are capable of is in fact in line with your implementation. And other days you still know you're capable of it, but the implementation just didn't happen. And sometimes that happens for a while, but if maybe there's something that happens, and that's important, is keeping something there, or just having that attitude that, and sometimes something is okay. And that, I think that's what maintenance is about.
I agree with you. I mean, in my own experience, I have gone through some crises and, death of my parents and, just upheavals in my life. And it didn't look like visiting my mother in hospice every day. My self-care went out the window. But
Mhm.
um, I knew I had my pillars of things that I did do for myself, and I knew those were there. And I think consistency isn't, you're saying it exactly true. And I love that or something, because I think when we struggle with our weight, we have very black and white thinking. We have good, bad. All or something is that the something is that gray area, which we are not used to being in. And I think that's the hardest thing to learn. I think it's the hardest thing to retrain our brains into, is being like good enough, but it doesn't have to look perfect. And just sometimes for most of us, human beings, having just those three things that we're sticking with, and we know like it's kind of like my daughter is putting an emergency kit together for me because I don't have time. And I'm like, she's here for the summer. I'm like, okay, I'm going to pay you and you can put an emergency kit together for me and my dad, me and my dad. Oh my gosh. Your dad. Um, and I said, these are the most important things that we want, like water, uh, some protein, like if we're out without food, like these are some main things. And, you know, and it's sort of like that emergency kit idea. It's like, what are the main things that when you're in an
Yeah.
emergency, you can hold on to? It's kind of like your little life raft,
Yeah.
and you get through the storm and you get to the other side, and then you can start to collect all your other things and get back. And by talking to you and some of the other people who have been maintaining, everybody would say the same thing. It's like maintenance does not look like consistent perfection. It looks like being sort of loose then focus. And I will say in my 29 years now of maintaining my weight, that's kind of the way it is. It's an integration of the best skills and continuing to skill, just like with your work, right? With work,
Mhm.
sometimes you're really on it and you're really sharp and things are clicking, and sometimes you're phoning it in. But you phone it in a way that you're holding yourself to a certain standard, but you're not like on it and accelerating or excelling in the way you want to. Same thing
Right.
like with relationships, right? Sometimes um, you're really engaged and connected and opening up new doors with that person, intimacy, all that stuff. And sometimes you're just like, yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm feeding
But
you.
I love that idea of the emergency kit. And I was writing it down as you said that, because I think I'll frame it like that, setting up, and just kind of I'll write it down and post it somewhere where I can see what are my strategies when things are going yeah, a little bit haywire, because that will happen from time to time. Then what are the things? Go, just make sure you do this, and a couple of things here that you're really good at doing. And even I may not even need to see the list to do them, but it reminds myself that I am doing something. So,
And that you're in an emergency situation, like that this is an extraordinary time and that it's okay. It's,
mhm.
you give yourself that grace that, you know, because I hear what you're saying, and I think as human beings and as, former perfectionists, we're like, I'm going to be ready for the next time the shite hits the fan, right? But the shite hits the fan, life gets interrupted, and sometimes you have no preparation time. So
Right.
it's like that's what the emergency kit is. It's just
Yeah.
like it's under the bed, you can grab it. You don't even remember what's in it, but it's like emergency. Okay, got it. So like when my husband had his surgery, I knew like exercise, don't go crazy with carbs, keep the carbs to a minimum, and do your morning meditation like maybe it's only 3 seconds long, but you connect with yourself and stay connected.
Right.
And that
Right.
was like
Yeah.
that was my little emergency float system
Yeah.
through that
Great.
time. So yeah.
Great. Yeah. Yeah.
So Marilyn, what would it be your advice, just like one piece of advice, for somebody heading into maintenance? Like, like what would you say? Because everybody has their idea of what maintenance might look like. Like, what would be, um, or anything for somebody, like, if you had to say, what would you say the most important thing to bear in mind as you're heading into maintenance?
Yeah, I think it's still taking the time to connect with yourself, that gratefulness, that recognition of what you have done so well so far. And also, when you're talking with yourself, when you're in that zone, remembering why it is, like what is the thing that really motivates you to be there, presuming you've had, like there is, whether it's health or whatever your issues are, but what made you get there, and keeping that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Did your vision change once you got to maintenance, or has it stayed the same as what, you wanted for yourself?
Yeah, I would say I didn't feel the need for visioning as much as I did during the process. Like I found that really useful during the weight release process. Um, a little bit less so, but it's interesting because one of my big visions was like what I was wearing, moving through the airport and sitting. So now, as I'm out and traveling, I do like I'm doing that vision, and I recognize that. Yeah, I look like what it was that I envisioned 50 pounds ago, so um I'm
That's so
liking
cool.
I'm liking that. Yeah, yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Marilyn. You always have words of wisdom, and I'm going to hold on to a lot of what you said too. That good, bad, or good or something.
Yeah. All or
All or
something.
something.
All or
All or
something.
something.
Yep.
That's a t-shirt.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. For sure. That'd be a good one. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will have you back on the Thin Thinking podcast very soon.
Thanks, Rita.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Marilyn. I love talking with you. You are just so amazing and have always so many powerful insights and are so honest and vulnerable with what you've learned on your journey. Listeners, I hope our conversation inspired you to keep showing up for yourself this holiday season with healthy choices and behaviors. And like I said, if you want to come learn more, online masterclass with hypnosis is available to you. Just check out the show notes and remember that the key, and probably the only key to unlocking the door of the weight struggle, is within you. So keep listening and find it, especially during the holiday season. I will look forward to seeing you here next week. Thanks for listening to the Thin Thinking Podcast. Did that episode go by way too fast for you? If so, and you want to dive deeper into the mindset of long-term weight release, head on over to www.shiftweightmastery.com. That's www.shiftweightmastery.com, where you'll find numerous tools and resources to help you unlock your mind for permanent weight release, tips, strategies, and more. And be sure to check the show notes to learn more about my book, From Fat to Thin Thinking, Unlock Your Mind for Permanent Weight Loss, and to learn how to subscribe to the podcast so that you never miss an episode.